Hello chess Neurites. What happens when you play against Nakamura? If your king is even slightly exposed, he finds a way to punish it. But if you try to attack him, he calmly refuses the threats and changes the direction with powerful counterplay. In this video, we'll look at two contrasting games of his. One where he exploits the weak king of the opponent, and another where he neutralizes his opponent's initiative and takes over. So let's dive into the sharp and resourceful play of Nakamura that makes him so dangerous. So in this example, Nakamura had black pieces and he was playing against Grandmaster Samonenkov. So Samonenkov's king is on f2, not completely safe, but the thing is that the king side is not that open. So Nakamura, if he wants to put pressure on that king to try to open the king side. And what's the best way to do that? It's the pawn breaks. So you go for the pawn breaks. If you exchange the pawns, then that will lead to opening up of more files, opening up of more diagonals, and that will give you the opportunity to take advantage of your opponent's weak king effectively. Now, Nakamura played a really natural move, f6. He actually wants to open this file and put pressure on that king. So, Samonenkov played e takes f6. Nakamura here played rook takes f6. So, he has been able to get that semi-open f file. So, that's better than before. Now, Samonenkov actually played a brave move, king g3. So, he was thinking that if he plays king g1, then the rooks will not be connected. If he plays king g2, maybe some tactic to here, and king g3 in some variations, maybe if this rook moves, then it can defend this pawn as well. So he actually thought that the king on g3, yes, it looks weak, but since the position is not open, so it's not like this g file is open that the rook will get to g8 and do something, or the queen can, for example, get here and do something. So he felt that the king is safe there since Nakamura does not have resources to take advantage of that. But he was mistaken, and Nakamura unleashes the move to keep the pressure on the king side. That is the brilliant move e5. So another pawn break. This time, it involves pawn sacrifice, but Nakamura is not worried. For him, it's the king that is the target. He will do something about it. Now, of course, the main point is that if f takes e5 is played, now the file is completely open and there are ideas of rook f3 check that can put pressure on white. There are ideas where Nakamura can play just knight takes e5, and if d takes e5, then there is queen takes e5. And if the king goes to g2, then bishop f3, and this is just too much for white to handle. So e5, a really strong move, and white's king side is actually soon going to collapse. Then white played the move d takes e5. Nakamura played knight takes e5. He's not worried. He's like, you take my knight, I'll play queen takes e5 check, and the king will be too weak. So, by the way, it's really important to note that there is no pawn on d4, so this knight now under pressure as well. So Samonenkov played the move knight b3. Now, Nakamura is not going to allow Samonenkov to get away and consolidate the position, because in these type of positions as well, if we give our opponent the time, maybe some safeguarding ideas can happen. Nakamura improves that knight's position with a tempo to keep the pressure on the king side. The queen is being attacked, so Samonenkov played the move queen f2, and then rook takes c1 was played. Now rook takes c1 has a bit of an issue because of this pressure on this, so Samonenkov played the move knight takes c1, and now Nakamura played the calm move rook e6, and then the e3 pawn cannot be defended. King is just too weak. King side in general will be too weak, and Nakamura actually won the game. So Samonenkov resigned here. A really nice example of how pawn breaks can help us in increasing the attack on the opponent. And here, white felt that the king was safe, but that central pawn break, sacrificing material, put pressure on the king by trying to open this file, by trying to put pressure on the center, and it was just too much white to handle. Now, let's go for the next example. In this one, Nakamura has white pieces and he's playing against Grandmaster Ankit. So, Ankit has this knight on g4, disadvantage because of the pawn on e4 on the king side. He's trying to put some pressure there, while Nakamura has double bishops. He has some activity on the queen side, so he's trying to put pressure there. So Nakamura played the move c5 in this. Basically, he's opening this diagonal for the queen. He might have some ideas of maybe b5, maybe d5, and on the queen side he can do something. So now Ankit goes for the activity on the king side. So, but before that, he plays a takes b4. A takes b4. He feels like this will be in his favor since he has gotten this file. Although he's not able to make use of it this file right now, but he might be able to do it a bit later. And in this position, he played the move f4. He's like, all right, before you create activity on the queen side, I'm going to actually push on the king side, then try to punish you. So looks a bit dangerous, but how Nakamura handles this and neutralizes Ankit's initiative on the king side, something that we'll see. Now, if g takes f4, then of course ideas like queen takes h4, things are not good for Nakamura. But what if he takes f4? The problem is that there is e3, and if f3, then that knight will get to f2. This is under pressure. Can be ideas like this, and things are actually not looking that great for Nakamura. So this was the plan of Ankit. So what Nakamura did, he actually eliminated that knight. He's like, I don't want that knight attacking the king. Then in this position, Ankit played h takes e4. Still, he has some activity, because the problem, what happens these type of positions is, if he does not do anything, then there are ideas where f3 check, bishop f6, bishop h4. So king side is still under pressure. Now, if he plays something like e takes f4, now it seems like, okay, there is no knight on g4, so there is no knight f2, but there is e3. And then if f takes e3, then there are queen e4 check ideas or queen e3. So let's say if something like this, the problem is that Ankit is down a pawn, but problems are not over for Nakamura. Rook a2 type of ideas, rook b3 type of ideas, rook e2 type of ideas. And this bishop is extremely restricted because all of these pawns being on dark squares. Even after exchange of queens, Ankit will actually maintain the initiative. That's why capturing that pawn, the e pawn, is not that great idea. So Nakamura played the move g takes f4. Seems a bit puzzling at first that, wait, is he not giving up his h pawn? He is, but he had the idea of rook h1. So why was not this possible earlier? Because the knight was on g4. So if the knight is on g4, then queen f2 would be game over. So he eliminated the knight and then he went for this idea. So queen f6 was played. Now what has happened is, because of this rook being on the open file, because of that lake of knight, now Ankit's initiative on the king side has actually reduced. So what should Nakamura do now? Of course, he's going to focus on his activity on the queen side. He played the move rook d2. He wants to play d5, but he doesn't want to give the bishop. He played that move. Queen e6 was played. He's not interested in exchanging queens. He's going for the pawn break. It's time to increase the pressure on the queen side through the center. He takes d5. He exchanged that bishop. Now black has to be a bit cautious about king side. And then rook takes d5 was played. By the way, black has these double pawns. King side, white has really nice pawn majority. Queen side as well. So queen f6 was played. Nakamura improved the rook's position with, by the way, there are some ideas, maybe queen b2 check, queen f6 and rook h7 type of things. So that's why Ankit did not want to allow that. He played queen f6. Nakamura played the move rook d6, improving the rook's position with a tempo. Then queen c3 check. Now it's time to target Ankit's king. f6 was played, and then here he went for rook takes f6. Ankit's king side will soon collapse. Queen takes f6, rook h7, king h7, queen f6. Yes, Ankit has two rooks for Nakamura's queen and pawn, but the problem is that there is that all those four pawns, weak pawns. So if black tries to defend the queen side, then there will be something on the king side. And if black tries to defend the king side, then on the queen side. So too many weaknesses actually. Rook g8 was played, queen h4. So he wanted to take this pawn, but if queen e7, then there is rook g7. So he played this intermediate move. Queen e7 check. He took this. Now connected pass pawns are there. g5 was played, f5, king g3, and then in this position, back row resigned. So a really nice example of how Nakamura turned the tables. So as Macro was putting pressure on his king side, he first neutralized it by removing that knight of back row and then bringing his knight, a rook on the king side, and then actually he was the one who was putting pressure back row and eventually was able to win the game. Thanks everyone for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.